share at the beginning, and then I'm going to introduce our speakers for tonight. First off, Dr. Roof sent out an email yesterday just letting participants know about some opportunities that you might be interested in participating. We have created the opportunity for you to nominate a mentor or a mentee highlight. So if you would like to show appreciation to your mentor or mentee, we will highlight a mentor or mentee and you can nominate that person. And so based upon the nominations, we will then highlight that person and just let them know how much we appreciate their participation. So there is a Google form link on that email that Dr. Ruth sent yesterday. So if you're interested in doing that. Also, just a reminder, we do have the RD Mentorship private Facebook page. And so this is designed to be a community kind of bounce ideas, connect, and just support each other throughout the program. So if this is something you're interested in, you're welcome to do it. It's not a requirement. We just want to create opportunities for you to network, maybe comment, post questions, and see what others are doing who are participants in the program, and maybe share resources and advice. But that's certainly an option if it's something you're interested. Again, Dr. Ruth put that link in that email sent yesterday. And as a reminder, we do have the program website, the rdmentor.com, and that also provides a lot of resources to you and is designed to enhance communication and just help you feel connected and go through, get resources that can be useful to you. And we want to encourage you to do that. The last announcement that we have is in the past, we did have some mentors to request a mentor listserv, again, for networking and sharing information. And so there was an email sent to mentors to participate in there. I believe there was a little bit confusion on that. And so the email will be resent. And if you would like to opt in to participate in the mentor listserv, please just reply to that email that is sent to you, and then we will connect you into that mentor listserv. So we just want to be able to provide opportunities to network and maybe exchange ideas. And so hopefully some of these opportunities that we're lending to you are something that you might find beneficial, as well as our professional development session tonight. So we really are excited. All of you are here with us talking about communication for the modern world. And so we're really excited tonight. If you don't know, we have 5 undergraduate student researchers who work with us in the program. And if you're interested in seeing them, you can go to our website and you can see pictures of them. But we're so happy that they are contributing to this and they're learning more about research as they are in their undergraduate career. And so tonight we have Jenna Countryman and Katie McCrary. Jenna is from the University of North Florida and Katie is from Texas A&M University. And they've collaborated to develop this presentation, and they are actually going to give the presentation tonight. So I am now going to turn it over to Jenna and Katie, and all of us want to welcome you to being here tonight. We're so glad you are. Jenna and Katie, you can take it away.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So as she said, this is Communication for the Modern World. Here are some of our learning objectives, just what we hope you get out of the presentation tonight. Learning how to identify the importance of understanding cultural differences, identifying what skills are important when communicating with individuals, and learning how to apply communication skills during cross-cultural engagements.
Okay, so today we're even more diverse and global than ever before, with neighbors from all over the world. And we have access to technology to allow us to communicate with these individuals and connect to people across the continent. So therefore, today it's important to continue educating ourselves and becoming more self-aware with how we communicate, especially with individuals who have different backgrounds and ideas that we may not be familiar with and can pose a challenge for us. So however, making these adjustments, they'll allow us to improve our rapport, quality of relationships, and effective communication between mentors, mentees, and clients. Here, I have also included a quote that I find applies to what we're learning about, which is, communication with individuals from other cultures. So cultural differences should not separate us from each other, but rather cultural diversity brings a collective strength that can benefit all of humanity. So as we are working with clients, mentors, mentees, and other dietitians, we can all learn new things from each other's culture and use it to strengthen our own practice as dietitians and as nutrition students. So what is culture? What exactly is it? And what does it entail? So when some people think about culture and how to define it, race and ethnicity might come to mind. Or for dietitians or as nutrition students, food. And we all love food here. But culture is not that simple and cannot just be those three subjects or limited to it. Even the subjects on the wheel, it's more of the beliefs and ideas of them that is culture. And there are so many other aspects that can be considered as culture, not only what someone eats or their race. It could be a lot of things such as the beliefs and ideas of health, lifestyle, values, morals, and verbal and even nonverbal communication. And here is a good graphic that covers some of them, but is not limited to it. And it is important to consider that the definitions that we create of culture reflect the US history or politics and may not simply indicate the differences in other groups in other countries. Additionally, the culture is not something that remains the same or something we can just memorize that one single group does. Culture is continuously evolving and changing. So culture is very important because as dietitians and students, we get to see a diverse amount of individuals and making sure that we are respectful and can communicate with them is important. So about culture and cultural competency. Culture can be a barrier to communication, especially if you do not speak their language in actual language terms or just the way they speak to. And a way to help ease this, but is not limited to, is to help develop cultural competency, which addresses diversity and inequality. Cultural competency, however, can be seen being more about the knowledge and learning about cultures. And there are also other approaches to learning culture, which is cultural safety, which analyzes like power imbalances, discrimination, and relationships, and it approaches culture more about the vulnerabilities instead of the strengths. And Cross et al. Had also defined cultural competency as a set of congruent behaviors, attitudes, and policies that come together in a system, agency, or among professionals, and enable that system, agency, or those professions to work effectively in cross-cultural situations. So nevertheless, culture should be approached with respect, and they are all similar in being willing and able to listen and learn from other individuals. Next slide. Okay. So now we're going to do a breakout room, and I'm going to post the topic for the discussion in the chat if you all want to copy and paste it before you go into the room so you don't forget. And the topic is to describe when you encounter different views or cultures and what challenges did this present and how did you overcome them?
Okay, I'm sending you to your breakout rooms right now. So hang on and accept that invite, please.
So now we're going to talk a little bit more about just communication in general, because it is such a big part of this presentation. So here's some common interpersonal skills: active listening, dependability, empathy, sympathy, and then nonverbal and verbal communication. Interpersonal skills are so important to how we connect with those around us. And then when we try to use them in professional settings, they can really change how effective our communication actually is. And a lot of interpersonal skills we are taught growing up, or we just kind of learn when we socialize, and they can actually be sharpened. So it's really good to take a look at your own interpersonal skills, see where you might be lacking, and then see where you can improve those to help improve your overall communication. For some reason, Google is not wanting to work with me very well today. All right, so then this is kind of a graphic, a breakdown of types of communication. I'm sure we've all seen something like this before, talking about verbal communication, tonality of voice, and body language. And obviously we can see here, body language is a very large portion of how we communicate with those around us. And when the pandemic happened, a lot of things went virtual, and we lost a lot of body language when we communicated. And I think it made it very difficult to help totally get our point across. And that's kind of how it's like communicating across cultures, where body language might be completely different, because body language is a very nuanced form of communication. And so we kind of got to see how hard it is once none of us have that advantage to try and effectively communicate. So then here are some tools we can use to help create effective communication. This can be in your personal life or professional. So make sure you're listening. Make sure you are utilizing the correct medium when you do try to communicate. Always show respect. Be sure to ask lots of questions so there's no confusion. Be concise in what you're saying, and then make sure to follow up if necessary. So if we use all of those skills, then we get all of these great bonuses. So we're going to build trust with you, your team, your patient. You're going to be able to problem solve a lot easier. You're going to have improved productivity, and then improved conflict resolution. Overall, effective communication just creates a much better environment for everyone involved. And then this is just kind of a breakdown of how and when to use virtual communication. So if you're trying to just send a short professional message, email is obviously going to be best for that. Zoom is going to be great for larger forms of communication, potentially if you're not even in the same city, same state as we have here. Texting really should be for short, not professional, personal messages. And then phone calls are great if you have to send a message that's longer than an email or needs more detail. Phone calls are great for that.
Okay, so communicating across cultures. Communication is how we exchange information, and in the field of dietetics, we are also working and communicating with various populations and individuals with a different culture than us. And so we place a big emphasis on meeting the needs of the clients and where they're at. So we also aim our counseling sessions and PES statements to what the goals of the client is. Therefore, when we are working with them or guiding them, it's important how we relay this information and to be mindful of their position as well on the subject. We also must be willing to listen to their perspective and learn from it. This will help improve our intervention and to acknowledge their beliefs and incorporate into the session. It is also important to focus on your interpersonal skills, whether verbal or nonverbal, and whoever you are with, they're always watching you. And especially when you're talking about when they're talking about important topics, they want to see how you will react to it, such as your change in tone, body position, facial expression, whether you're closed off or slightly leaning forward. It can all make all the difference. And then respect. Having respect for someone and what they do and believe in, despite it not aligning with what you think. This is always important when communicating with individuals from other cultures, and it shapes how the meeting will go. Lastly, after your meeting or interaction, it's important to self-reflect and to look back at things you did well and maybe things that you need to improve on, such as maybe doing more research to further understand that individual's culture. So now it is important to remember when interacting and talking with individuals from a different culture, and it is important to be mindful of their ideas and practices when communicating with them, all of which combine to create a respectful environment that allows cross-cultural communication to not only work but be effective within the work environment.
All right, so now we are going to go into another breakout room. So Jenna's going to go ahead and put the question in the chat box, but it's what types of communication skills can you utilize when you're working with someone who has different views of a nutrition topic?
So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, so just 1 second, please. Okay, hopefully that moved you around. Here we go. Questions that they may like to ask at this time? Thank you so much for everyone congratulating Katie and Jenna on a good job for this. So if we don't have any additional questions, one thing that we did at our orientation, some individuals had the interest in staying on to network some. And so if you are interested in staying on to network a little bit, I'm happy to open up a couple of breakout rooms for individuals to network if you'd like to do that. And if not, then that's fine. You're welcome to leave. But I did want to extend that opportunity if some of you are interested to continue to network for this evening. Could do about 10 more minutes, perhaps, of networking if that was of interest. And as a reminder, we did record the session, so we will have it available if you'd like to go back and view it. Certainly, that would be an opportunity for you to do that if you would like to do so.
Where is that going to be available?
That should be available on the website and probably later this week. I know we sent out an email after orientation to let participants know that that recording was available, and we'll try to do the same thing for this as well.
Okay.
Thank you. We're so glad that you joined us tonight. Are there any of you that would like to go into a breakout room? If you do, that's fine. If you just let me know, and if not, then certainly it's no pressure. I know everybody has a lot going on tonight or just this week even. So, just to extend the opportunity if it's something of your interest. Bye. So Lacey, I was going to tell you there were a couple of announcements at the beginning that maybe you might be interested in. Yesterday, Dr. Roof sent out an email to participants. I don't know that if you've seen it or not, but I went over these at the beginning, and so I just wanted to share them with you since you were unable to be at the beginning. We're doing a program where you can nominate a mentor or mentee every other week. And so then if someone is nominated, then we post information about them on our Facebook page. So if that's something that you're interested, there was a Google form in there that you could nominate an individual. And then also the fact that we have a private Facebook page. Just so if people want to network, to bounce ideas, connect, support each other throughout the program. It's not a requirement, but if it's something that you're interested in, certainly could join that. That link was on that email. And you can, ask questions, what other people are doing or resources or even advice. And then on our website, we have, several resources available. So if any of those things might be relevant or useful to you, want to let you know that. And then the last thing was, last year we did have some participants to ask about having a mentor listserv. And so I believe there was some confusion. There was an email sent out to individuals, and they're going to resend that email. And if you would be interested in being part of the mentor listserv, then if you will just reply to that email, then that will connect you to a mentor listserv if you're interested in doing that. So just wanted to.
I'm pretty sure I clicked on some sort of link, put it on all my information, like my business and that kind
Okay.
of thing. So I thought I was on it.
Okay, well, I'll make sure.
Could be
I know
wrong.
that they had some miscommunication on that, not with y'all, but amongst the researchers. And so we're just trying to make sure that if somebody's on that or wanting to be on it, that we get it clear cut, because again, there was a little miscommunication amongst ourselves. And so we want to just make sure to extend that opportunity for those who want to do that. But I will mention this to Dr. Ruth that you had sent some stuff in as far as for your information. And then we'll make sure that we get you connected on that for sure, since you already sent that in. You're muted, Lacey.
Yeah, I
I'm
realize
sorry.
that. I can always fill it out again too
Okay.
if it was for some other, it was definitely for the mentor program, but if it went somewhere else, I know
Okay.
who I am and how to contact myself, so I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what they were saying is, I think they were trying to do an opt-in or an opt-out for that mentor listserv, and so that's where they got confused. And so basically, they're going to resend that, and if you reply, then that means you opt in to be part of that mentor listserv,
Okay.
and then we'll communicate with you. But we're just wanting to make as many resources available to participants as we can, so that we can, I guess, be that encouragement for whatever people are needing to feel success and to benefit from the program. So we're just wanting all participants to feel part of that. So,
Great.
well, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. I'm not sure how clear I can make it or if it
Okay.
even makes sense. So a lot of patients come with their families, and most of the time the family members communicate for the patient.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're talking about the diversities and cultural living. Well, if like a family member moves and then they go in and take care of the patients and their culturals are different, how do you go about like communicating their differences to help the patient when the family members trying to help them and make things better for them? Like, how do you go about that? If that
So,
makes
like,
sense. I'm sorry.
yeah, so from what I'm hearing you say, within the family itself, there's some cultural differences within the family members. Is that
Right. Because a lot of family members will move off across the country and then they come back to take care of them. So their lookout on everything's different. So
Right.
how do you go about that? Because most of the time the family members are the one communicating for the patient. So
right?
I don't know. It's kind of like far away out in the topic or something, but I'm just curious how that works with communication.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for asking that question. So there's a few people on. Dolores is still on. Lacey's still on. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Well, I can give you a thought. Because I work with families myself, because I'm mostly, sorry, there's a light right behind me, or with children. And so I get a lot of parents answering for their kids. And so if your client or patient is able to communicate like verbally or writing or anything, I often will ask the parent, my situation, to just hang on. I'd really like to hear how, the son, Jack, I'd like to hear what Jack has to say about this. I want to hear it from his mouth, because I want to understand his perspective. And then I want to hear what you have to say, and just kind of give them kind of like the hold, please. I want to be able to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And usually parents will, and maybe other family members or the caregiver will take a little step back. I don't know if that's feasible for your population, because I missed hearing who you work with earlier, but I don't know if that's helpful or not. Just to simply say, hey, like, let me hear it from Jillian first.
Right.
Because often the child doesn't, or the person doesn't identify, doesn't have the same answer that the caregiver or parent does. And so it gives that parent a chance to be surprised and say, oh, maybe I am like seeing this wrong, or seeing this in a different way, or I'm projecting. And it also gives the client a chance to say, like, I have a voice and I have some control in how like my nutrition or my health goes.
Mhm. That's a very good point. So Mallory, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something, maybe, have you tried something like that before, or?
Well, I'm an undergraduate still. I'm in my junior
Okay.
year. So I was just curious, through the mentorship and everything, it's been great. And she's talked about how my mentor has talked about how she has family members coming in and talking with her patients and allowing her patients to talk as well. And she takes two sides. But whenever we had brought up the cultural differences and the diversity and everything, I was curious how it worked when it came to that topic specifically, because I mean that it can make everything a whirlwind when it comes to situations like that. So I was just curious if anyone had experience in that particular thing. But like Lacey said, children and parents or caretakers, like that's a huge difference, and especially with the ages and the experience in living and what the parents and caretakers have experienced in food and what the children haven't. Children are forced to eat things. So it's a lot. But yes, she did answer my question. So thank you, Lacey. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think another point that Lacey made that I thought was really good too is the fact that for that person, it's giving them the confidence, it's giving them their voice so that they can actually, share what they feel. And that caregiver sometimes may be a little surprised that that person's response is different from the caregivers. They may think that they know all of that, but then when the person says it, it's a little bit like, oh, well, we're not right in line on that. And I think that's can be eye-opening, as Lacey said. So another thought along those lines. So good. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for asking, Mallory.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Certainly. So are there any other questions that anyone might have?
Well, I'll throw it out there. My Elisa and I are working on a new client questionnaire for my practice, and specifically for the youth population. And so that questionnaire is often filled out by the parent or with the parent, because I mean, a lot of my kids or the kids I see are, they have 3 to 18, but most of them fall in that 6 to 13-year-old range. And so the parents are oftentimes the ones that are bringing me in, or, I'm working with a team of behavior therapists. And so I wanted the questionnaire to be a little bit more in tune with more about like how the home environment, the context of the family. And so just in the idea of how we're reshaping this, do y'all think it would be worthwhile to have, say, a portion of that questionnaire that is really directed for the child to fill out, or even if somebody has to help them read it, with pictures and stuff, and then kind of a separate thing for the parent, just like that kind of gives, again, that kind of buy-in, or that sense of like, oh, this is, for me, about me? Or do you think that that's kind of like too much to ask from the kid?
Personally, I think it's a good thing. I mean, that's just my thought, for the child to have some input on the given situation and let maybe them and the parents see kind of how much alignment that they are, or where those differences exist. And I think sometimes those differences can just enhance that communication. But then giving the kids a voice or some confidence in some of their areas. I was one of those. I'm of the generation where you ate everything at the table or everything on your plate, and that kind of thing. And so I think that that can be good for kids to have some feedback on that, because honestly I felt like that was one of the contributors to an eating disorder that I had in high school, because there was so much of my food stuff controlled that and so sometimes maybe that might allow for more balance, maybe, and even confidence related to food, and even education sessions or dialogue about like, well, why do you feel that way? And so I think if you have it to where a child could do it, and maybe it's with pictures or something like that.
Right. And I think that we could try to find a way that, like, it ages so that there's, if I'm going to come in for a 6-year-old versus I'm coming in for a 13-year-old, like the portrayal of like kind of some of the key information would be presented differently, so that,
Right.
Because, some 6-year-olds can read, but like, I mean, I have a 6-year-old, so, I know how
Right.
challenging like some of those questions could be. But if y'all think that would be something worthwhile, then we'll kind of look at how we structure that. Because there is a big change in how like the I guess they call them like food parenting practices are. And so the style of parent that you are can lead to more of authoritarian or authoritative or overprotective or totally hands off. And that all of that affects how the child eats and how they relate to food or how they learn about it when they're
Right.
young. And maybe before we get to the eating disorder stage, we really
Right.
we dive into the picky eating and their super selectiveness. And that's also about control and a lot of times.
Right.
So, okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Oh.
It may formulate a healthier relationship with food, you know, for the children and the bigger picture of it all, because there definitely a lot of people do have unhealthy relationships with food, and I think some of that is formed from their environmental exposure when they're young. So definitely, it'd be interesting to see and to put it into application and maybe, you know, get some feedback and some longitudinal studies or whatever to see kind of the impact of that for the population that you're working with. But I think it'd be really interesting to see the outcomes.
Well, certainly, once we get it all ironed out, we'll be happy to send it to the group to chime in on or use or adapt for your own practices.
That
down the
sounds
road.
good. That sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think
Thank
it's
you for
really
that.
neat because, you know, most children are, especially, I have a 6-year-old myself, and I don't like to use the word sponges, but they basically are sponges. And at that age in particular, to me, they like to know deep in depth the specifics. They don't want to just know the basics. They want to know like how the food's made, where it's coming from, how it's done. So I think with you going and asking the questions and having them answer it, and then their parents answering questions, it shows a balance and a difference to see how they feel on a personal level. And like Miss Karen said, it's giving them a voice. It's giving them their options and opinions on where they stand with all of this. I think it's a great idea because it's going to help them in the long run of how to pertain their choices and decisions on the foods and everything that they eat.
Mhm. And it could be a very educational opportunity for them too. I mean, you know, maybe so some of their choices aren't that good. It might be that opportunity to share why, you know, milk is an important part of your diet, or fruits and vegetables that maybe they don't like that, but that gives that education of, well, understand that here's one of the reasons why we encourage it, you know, and then just generate dialogue along those lines. And even if they don't like certain things, which are other things that might be equivalents that would be great to fill that gap of or replace something that they don't like, you know. So just a thought on that. So, well, sounds good. Well, I appreciate everybody being here tonight. So we're going to go ahead and close out. We'll send that information out though about the recording. And we appreciate y'all being here. Remember, we'll have another one, another professional development session in the spring, and we'll be sitting midterm evaluations in December. So we're interested to know how things are going with people and their mentor-mentee relationship. And so if there's anything that we can do to help, you know, enhance those relationships, please let us know so that we can do that and provide the best opportunity for everyone involved. So thanks, y'all. Have a good evening. See you later. Thanks again, Jenna, for leading the group tonight. Good job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.